critiques that we received from previous district assemblies was that workshops didn't seem to be connected. They seemed scattershot. So our dream this year was to start off with 2 wonderful keynotes that lead to 2 tracks where you deepen and learn in a particular issue. Pat has come up and shared one, and it is my honor. I want to say this before I introduce Mark. It's that it is my great joy to serve on this regional staff with both Pat and Mark and the rest of the team. It's amazing when and I have a pretty high opinion of myself, when I, Reverend David Pyle, look around and say, wow, they are so much better than I am. So it's wonderful to be able to introduce my dear colleague, Mark Bernstein, who serves a congregation, who is part of a congregation in central Pennsylvania. Raise your hand. How about the greater Philadelphia area? Raise your hand. And how about northeastern Pennsylvania or New Jersey? Raise your hand. So if you are in any of those congregations, Mark Bernstein is your congregation's primary contact. He is a longtime advocate, leader, and thinker on the issue of the rights of those who are differently abled and how we live those in our community, our congregations, and in our lives. He has served as the president of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Delaware County in Media, Pennsylvania. He served as a member of the Joseph Priestley District adjunct staff, teaching workshops for boards and retreats, and helping all of us as leaders to be better as leaders. Mark's over there going, did I do all that? He also has served as the JPD growth consultant, and for the last 5 years now, served as a member of the Central East Regional staff focused on growth, and now as a primary contact for the Central East Regional staff. I give you Mark Bernstein.
Thank you, David. Good evening.
Good evening.
What Pat said. Thank you all very much. I'm really glad that you're here for District Assembly, and I'm happy to be with you, and I'm honored to be up here and share this keynote time with my great and good colleague, Pat. Pat talked about critical issues within the congregation. I want to talk with you this evening about the importance of reaching out beyond the walls of your congregation and the power of congregational connections. The movement goes by many different names. Congregational Connections is the term that I prefer. Many people think that this is the shiny new toy in Unitarian Universalism. I like to think of it as the new frontier. So what I'd like to do this evening is to share a few stories of congregational connections across our district, our region, and across the country. Here's the first one. In the north central section of the great state of Illinois is the Unitarian Universalist Church of Rockford. It's a mid-sized church of 350 members with a history and a building dating back to the 1800s. The senior minister is Reverend Matthew Johnson, and Schuyler Vogel is the quarter-time assistant minister. He preaches occasionally, does pastoral care, and runs the adult education program, specifically the Soul Matters program. About 15 miles to the north, 22 minutes without traffic, is the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Rock Valley in Rockton, Illinois. Rock Valley is a very small congregation, only about 14 years old, with about 42 members currently. Schuyler is their quarter-time interim minister. He preaches once a month and consults with the board and the worship and membership committees. While the two congregations are not yet formally linked, they are working intentionally around opportunities for congregational collaboration. Members of both congregations are participating together in Soul Matters groups. Rockford helps Rock Valley find worship leaders and also works with local clergy to provide sermons to be read there. The congregations have also worked together on providing local conferences, training sessions, and music festivals and a joint worship is planned for later on this spring. The hope is that Rockford and Rock Valley will move toward more formalized collaboration in the next church year and beyond as they, pardon the pun, rock on. These are the jokes. Get used to it. The Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, New Jersey, and the Central Unitarian Church in Paramus each wanted to hire a youth coordinator, but individually they didn't have enough money to hire with enough hours to attract a capable employee. So they decided to pair up and hire a half-time coordinator. Her name is Valerie Friesman, and she runs a program that includes approximately 15 youth, 9th to 12 grades, not including those in coming of age, between the two congregations. On even months, the group meets at the Paramus Church. On odd months, they meet in Ridgewood. The congregations are only about 5 miles apart, so travel is not a problem, although they tell me scheduling activities has been. Nevertheless, Robin Slaw, Director of Lifespan Faith Development at Paramus, tells me that they are very happy with the arrangement so far and that neither congregation would have this position if they hadn't connected in this way. Robin, Valerie, and Laura Beth Brown, religious educator at Ridgewood, meet weekly via Skype. Formal supervision of Valerie is the responsibility of Laura Beth this year, and next year Robin will assume supervisory responsibilities. The Unitarian Universalist congregations of the Delmarva Peninsula, perhaps you've heard of them, have been meeting as a cluster since October 2009. Raise your hand if you're one of the congregations in the Delmarva cluster. You are one of the most successful clusters in our region. They include 8 congregations, mostly small congregations, that exist between the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean, an area that contains a portion of Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, hence the name Delmarva, in case you didn't know that already. The group meets about every 6 weeks to share updated information, plan collaborative efforts, and discuss issues of relevance and importance to all congregations and to our UU faith. They have a website with information about each of the congregations listed. The cluster website has links to each of the congregations' websites, thus providing an additional marketing and outreach tool for the churches. They also sponsor a speakers bureau where congregations can access presenters on various topics, and they engage in joint social justice projects, including the staffing of booths annually at the Delaware Gay Pride Festival. They also hold beach events at Camp Henlopen, which I haven't been invited to, and have held several training workshops. They have an advocacy training workshop planned next month, in fact, at the Chester River congregation. And every year, they come together and worship. These are photos from the UU congregations of the Delmarva Peninsula celebration held in the Dickinson High School Auditorium in Wilmington on October 11th, 2014. Several hundred UUs together in song and worship, combined choirs, participation from each of the ministers, and lunch and conversation following. It's a great event. Every Sunday at 1 p.m., hundreds of people flock to a park in Canton, Ohio for a church-sponsored community meal. It is the Canton Sunday Picnic, and it has been a tradition for the past 5 years. What makes this event particularly relevant is that it is jointly sponsored by 3 United Church of Christ congregations: New Vision UCC, Grace UCC, and Congregational UCC. Volunteers from all 3 congregations provide a hot dish, donate food items that can be used to make future meals, or bring plates, utensils, and takeout containers. One of the church congregants, a man named Skylark Bruce, and I mention him only because he has a great name, Skylark Bruce, said in a news article, "As much as the picnic is about meeting the hunger needs of people, it's also about making connections. Connections with the community and connections with each other in our congregations." May Memorial Unitarian Universalist Society and First Unitarian Universalist Society of Syracuse are this close geographically.
Yeah.
They're only about 2.5 miles apart if you take Kimber Road, and a little over 3 miles if you take Randall Road. Yet for a very long time, they might as well have been 100 miles apart. But about 5 years ago, they decided to combine the youth groups from both congregations, since the one at First U Syracuse was too small in number to sustain itself. Since then, the numbers have grown, and the youth from both congregations continue to come together as one. They alternate between the two buildings every other month, as do the junior high OWL and coming-of-age classes. And the sharing is not exclusive to youth. There is also a young adults group that is active and open to both congregations. And one more thing, they have a twisted sister group. Not that twisted sister. This is a monthly women's social group started at May Memorial that is now open to women at both congregations. Much of the collaboration between these two congregations is due to the vision and hard work of their directors of religious education. Stacy Seaford of May Memorial and Tina Leslie Fox of First UU Syracuse, and their partnership has worked on more than just a congregational level. Tina writes, "The collaboration has been very successful for both congregations and has provided me as a DRE a close peer to work with in an often lonely job." 3 congregations in southern Maine, the Sanford UU Church, the UU Church of Saco and Biddleford, and the First Parish UU Church of Kennebunk, now make up the UUs of your county. All 3 are small pastoral churches of about 75 to 100 members that have steadily declined in membership over the last decade or so. The story of this collaboration began in January 2013 when Reverend Sue Gabrielson and the Sanford Board President sent a letter of invitation to their counterparts in Saco, Biddleford, and Kennebunk to begin a conversation on how they might work together in response to a changing world. Reverend Sue wrote in that letter, "What we know as individuals is that we are all trying to answer the big questions of life, that there is no one truth, and that it is way better if we do it together in a loving community." Reverend Sue is the half-time settled minister of the Sanford Church and the quarter-time contract minister at Saco Biddleford. Reverend Lara K.J. Campbell is the minister at Kennebunk. After a series of starts and stops, it all came together last spring and summer. They now have 4 working groups involving a number of folks from each of the 3 congregations. The groups are social action, communications, outreach, and tri-church development. They're looking into having a joint retreat. The 3 choirs have formed a tri-church choir and take turns offering music at each church on various Sundays. The UUs of your county now meet regularly every 2 months at rotating locations, and the gatherings are convened by the board presidents. The Unitarian Universalist Church of Athens and Shishikwan in Athens, Pennsylvania, which bills itself as the little church that could, combined its chorus one recent Sunday with the chorus from the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Binghamton. They created a service entitled "The Gospel According to Carole King." There is now talk among the congregations in the area about forming a new cluster with a music focus. Excitement about doing more musical things together, from choir music directors sharing more information and inspiration to having more of these joint choir services. The Piedmont Unitarian Universalist Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, has a membership of approximately 250. Early in the 2012-13 church year, they created what they call a new gathering in Salisbury, North Carolina, about 35 minutes away. In their board resolution to establish the Salisbury gathering, they wrote, "We envision creating gatherings of members of the Piedmont Unitarian Universalist Church, PUUC, with Salisbury being our first gathering. Members in Salisbury would be full members of PUUC. The vision is that the Salisbury gathering would be a model for connecting outside the walls of our sanctuary that allows PUUC to continue to share the message of Unitarian Universalism while finding creative solutions to the limitations of our physical facility." Worship services at Salisbury are held on Sundays at 4:30. Lay leaders lead the services, but the sermon and service materials all come from the Piedmont gathering in Charlotte. Using technology, they record videos of the sermons on Sunday and then download the video, email it to lay leaders in Salisbury so they can view it during worship. Members in Salisbury occasionally attend services in Charlotte and vice versa. They hold periodic social events that gather the whole congregation, and they hold their annual auction and other fundraisers together for both gatherings at the Charlotte site. In concluding their original proposal, they wrote this: "In order to fulfill this vision, it will take the goodwill, creative solutions, and vision of all of our members. It is important to note," they continue, "that the idea of creating satellites was first articulated in our first long-range plan of our congregation. Visions have power," they wrote, "even nearly 20 years later, to at last be birthed into being. May we be bold enough to step toward these dreams." These varied examples represent what is possible when congregations come together. There are a myriad of ways in which we can tap the power of congregational connections. Perhaps you have a story to tell as well, and I would love to hear it. We, the staff in the Eastern region, are talking and meeting with congregations constantly who are starting to look beyond their own walls to see what is possible in collaboration with others. So why do it? Well, let's go to the source. The concept of congregational connections is consistent with our statement of theology. I'm pulling out the heavy artillery, folks. The Cambridge Platform, written in 1648, a few years before I was born. While this document formed the basis for what we know as congregational polity, the right to self-governing, the Cambridge Platform also calls on congregations to associate with one another. And I quote right from the Cambridge Platform: "Although churches be distinct and therefore may not be confounded one with another, and equal and therefore have not dominion one over another, yet all the churches ought to preserve church communion one with another, not only as a mystical but as a political head." They talked funny back then. So what do they mean by communion of churches? In the Cambridge Platform, it is exercised in many ways. By way of mutual care in taking thought for one another's welfare. By way of consultation one with another. By way of participation, the members of one church occasionally coming unto another. And in case of need to minister relief and succor one unto another, either of able members to furnish them with officers, or of outward support to the necessities of poorer churches. Mutual care, consultation, participation, support. They are all demonstrated in the examples that I cited this evening, examples from our district, our region, and across the country. And the inspiration for Congregational Connections, for reaching out to help and support and nurture each other, is found as well in other religious sources. In the Christian tradition, in Matthew chapter 18, verse 20, "For where 2 or 3 have gathered together in my name, I am there in their midst." It is written in the Quran, "Whoever saves one, it is as if he has saved mankind entirely." And in the Jewish tradition, Martin Buber, author of I and Thou, writes, "The basis of people's lives with one another is twofold: the wish of each person to be confirmed as what each person is and as what that person can become, and the innate capacity in each person to confirm others in this way." So substitute the word congregation for person, and it reads, "The basis of congregations' lives with one another is twofold: the wish of each congregation to be confirmed as what each congregation is and as what that congregation can become, and the innate capacity in each congregation to confirm others in this way."
Amen. Really?
Yes, and Martin Buber's my uncle. No, he's not. But he goes on to say this, that this capacity lies so immeasurably fallow, constitutes the real weakness of the human race. Actual humanity, Buber says, exists only where this capacity unfolds. So reaching out to help each other is how we demonstrate our humanity. For theological reasons, for ethical reasons, for moral reasons, connecting as congregations is the right thing to do. In the workshop to follow tonight and in the 2 workshops tomorrow, we'll talk about more practical reasons. We'll also talk about the compelling reasons not to do this, to exercise the power of congregational connections. We'll review various models in more detail and share how to get started and how to enroll your congregation in these exciting possibilities. But for now, I want to close with a quote from Mother Teresa. "If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other." Thank you.